The king's shadow walked alone. It was past midnight when I saw the king's shadow move on its own. I swear on my life. He was sitting by the fire, surrounded by the elders, but his shadow stretched away from him, crawling along the ground like it was looking for something. I wasn't supposed to be there. I'm just a farmer, and farmers don't sit with kings. But that night, the king had called everyone to the big clearing. He said there was a curse on the village. People had been disappearing, first children, then grown men. Their huts were always left open, with nothing but the faint smell of ash inside. The king promised to protect us, so I stayed close, hiding in the dark to listen. The king was a good man, everyone knew that. He fed the hungry, punished the wicked, and gave his wealth to anyone in need. That's why we loved him. But that night, something was wrong. He looked tired, older than I'd ever seen him. His skin was pale, and his eyes seemed hollow, like he hadn't slept in weeks. The elders were speaking in hushed voices, blaming witches, angry spirits, and the greed of other tribes. The king stayed silent, staring into the fire. That's when it happened. His shadow stood up. It didn't rise slowly, like a normal shadow would. It jerked upright, sudden and sharp, like it had been waiting for this moment. It didn't look like him either. It was taller, its arms too long, its head bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. The shadow slid across the ground, heading toward the edge of the clearing where the trees were thickest. No one else seemed to notice, and I didn't dare say a word. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then the king spoke, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "The curse is mine to bear," he said. "What I've taken, I must return." He stood up, and his shadow disappeared into the forest. He followed it, walking slowly, like he was being led. The elders called after him, but he didn't stop. Nobody dared follow. The next morning, we found him at the edge of the village, sitting under the old baobab tree. His eyes were open, but they didn't see anything. His body was cold, and his hands were clutching a bundle of sticks tied together with dried grass. We burned the sticks, like the elders said we should. They called it an offering to the spirits, a way to break the curse. After that, the disappearances stopped. But the village wasn't the same. We still tell stories about the good king, but we don't say his name anymore. And at night, when the moon is full, nobody goes near the baobab tree. If you do, some say you can see his shadow waiting there, still looking for something in the dark.